It's not easy to differentiate between Mandarava and Yeshe Tsogyal. These are the two main female consorts of the teacher Padmasambhava. We see them mostly in painting, but also in sculpture, where we have this kind of trinity, this triad of three figures, Padmasambhava, and the two main consorts. There are other consorts, and there are lists of the different consorts that are important in the biography, in the revealed treasure biography of Padmasambhava. But we're not dealing with that. We're dealing with being able to recognize Mandarava or Yeshe Tsogyal, or understanding why you can't necessarily identify them. There's several ways of really identifying the two figures, and we have to distinguish between sculpture and painting. With painting, we're fine for the most part. It's really with sculpture, and then with sculpture sets that have become separated, so we do not have a relationship between the three figures. So the different ways of recognizing the two consorts. Well, the first is inscriptions. If you have a sculpture and you have an inscription written on the back, then that's perfect. Then you know which it is of the two consorts. Secondly is physical placement. So if you have a sculpture and it's actually one of these triads or groups of three, then Mandarava is always situated on the proper right side of Padmasambhava, and Yeshe Tsogyal is on the left side. Now, the reason for this is because of Mandarava comes earlier in the biography, and Yeshe Tsogyal comes later. Mandarava is basically Indian subcontinent, and Yeshe Tsogyal is from Tibet. from Tibet. Now, sometimes we have sculpture sets where the figures, the two consorts, the two female figures become separated. So then what we have to look for is what direction they're facing, if they have the head turned slightly to the left or slightly to the right. If it's a Mandarava, she would be placed on the proper right side of Padmasambhava, so often her face would be turned slightly to the left, looking towards him. And the same with Yeshe Tsogyal, she would be looking towards her right. Now, another indication is Mandarava coming from India often has very light ethereal garments, like a heavenly deity. Yeshe Tsogyal often has heavier garments because she's coming from Tibet, where it's higher, it's colder, you need more garments. Now, also hand attributes can be important. In many cases, Mandarava is holding a vase, some kind of a vase or a long life vase, and Yeshe Tsogyal is holding a skull cup. This is not consistent always, but it is consistent enough that you can look for it. Also, Yeshe Tsogyal can be seen holding a kila, a purba peg. This often is more when she's by herself, not as a group. So these are really the main ways of recognizing and distinguishing Mandarava from Yeshe Tsogyal. But it's also important to understand that sometimes the bowl, skull cup, bowl, and the vase are not consistent. The garments are not consistent. Sometimes the two sculptural forms are not depicted with the head slightly turned as if facing Padmasambhava. So you can't always recognize Mandarava and Yeshe Tsogyal once they're separated from a set of three. And then that's fine. You just have to understand that, and that's the way it is. It can be difficult to distinguish them. So press the like button. You can subscribe. You can join HAR on Patreon, and you can also go to the HAR website and donate and help support the work that we do.